Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, friends, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. Richard, congratulations to you and your team on a beautiful event. My name is Peter Diamandis. I serve as the chairman and founder of the X Prize Foundation. I'm an investor. Most of all, I'm an entrepreneur. And my mission and purpose this decade is to add 20 or 30 healthy years on your life. Let me hit the punchline. There was a study done a year ago out of Harvard, Oxford, London School of Business that said adding just one healthy year of productive life to the population of the planet would add $38 trillion to the global economy. So, how do we add 20 or 30? How do we make 100 years old as the new 60? When I was in medical school years ago, I remember watching this television show on long-lived sea life, that species of whales and sharks and turtles could live 300, 400, 500 years. I remember thinking, if they can live that long, why can't we? And I was doing a medical degree, an engineering degree, and I said, it's either a software problem or a hardware problem. And it's this decade that we're beginning to understand why we age, how to slow it, and potentially how to reverse it. And I can think, especially we talk about priorities, no greater priority than one's health. And we all have a disease, and that's called aging. And aging is considered more and more a disease, something that can be addressed. Now here's the challenge. As humans, we evolved 100,000 years ago on the savannas of Africa, and back then, you would go into puberty at age 13. By age 14, you'd have a baby. By the time you were 28, you were a grandparent. And back before Whole Foods and McDonald's, when food was scarce, the last thing you wanted to do was take food out of your grandchildren's mouth to perpetuate the species. And you do the decent thing and die. But that's no longer the case. And so when I say that we have the potential this decade to add 20 or 30 healthy years in our lives, why do I believe that? There are 4 reasons. Let me share those with you. The first is we're in the midst of a powerful convergence of exponential technologies. Computation, sensors, networks, AI, robotics, 3D printing, synthetic biology, AR, VR, blockchain. These technologies are converging on the world's biggest market, which is health. There's nothing larger, right? Health is the new wealth. So those technologies are enabling us to do things we could never do before. It's moving healthcare out of the doctor's office, out of the hospitals, into the home. AI is helping us to understand how chains of amino acids fold into proteins. It's unlocking the secrets of life in an extraordinary fashion. And that's just the beginning. We also have quantum computing coming on. Quantum computers are going to enable us to understand on a molecular and atomic level what's happening for not the entire global population, but for you, drugs of one to solve your issues, to understand how the 3.2 billion letters of your life interact with this molecule. We're then entering this biotech revolution, right? Sequencing a single genome 20 years ago was $100 million and 9 months. Today it's $100, a million times cheaper. Not 9 months, it's 7 hours. At the same time, besides reading genomes, we can now edit them, right? CRISPR, which won the Nobel Prize in medicine from 2 amazing women 2 years ago in 2020, is curing disease. It's not treating disease. We've gone from treating diseases to curing diseases, right? If you have a genetic disease in your family, you can now look at saying, how do I solve this? Not how do I live with this, but how do I cure this for myself? These words are biblical in nature. They're extraordinary. We have gene therapies to edit your epigenome. Let me ask you a question. We all have the same genome when we're born, when we're 20, when we're 50, when we're 80, when hopefully we're 100. Why do you look different if you have the same exact genome? It isn't your genome, it's your epigenome. It's which genes are on and which genes are off that control how you feel, how you age. And the technologies today are enabling us to control that epigenome. It's extraordinary. The third force is what I call the power of diagnostics. And so one of the companies that I have is focused on being able to digitize you fully, 150 gigabytes of data about you. And when we understand that, we can catch disease at stage 0, right? We find that 2% of people, 2% of you, have a cancer you don't know about. 2.5% have an aneurysm you don't know about. We're all optimists. We think we're fine. We know more about what's going on in our cars than we do in our bodies. But the technology is going to change that to enable us to find disease at the very beginning. And then there are incredible technologies. We've seen the power of vaccines to change the world. Well, vaccines can now, another company I'm so proud of, Vaccinity, is created a vaccine to be able to prevent heart disease. Imagine a vaccine at $50 a year that's able to go and block what's called the PCSK9 gene in your liver, which produces LDL, low-density lipoproteins, the bad cholesterol. Imagine being able to vaccinate yourself at 30, 40, 50, and block the #1 killer on the planet, right? Heart disease for women kills 3 times more women than breast cancer does. It's an epidemic we don't talk about, but it is preventable. We are also living in a time when more and more capital is flowing into this marketplace. We've seen the birth of an extraordinary organization out of Saudi, out of the kingdom, and out of the Emirates called Hevolution, which has committed billions of dollars to this marketplace. We've seen folks like Yuri Milner and Jeff Bezos look at and build a company called Altos with billions of dollars. More capital is flowing in, and it's accelerating this. The ability of small teams to use these technologies to understand why we age and perhaps why we don't have to. You know, my own venture fund, Bold Capital, we commit about $500 million into this marketplace. There's no bigger opportunity on the planet. One of the things I'll just mention, I'm very proud, we're very close to launching. I run this X Prize. We've launched $300 million in X Prizes around the world to solve everything from wildfires to mapping the ocean floors. We're on the verge of launching a $101 million age reversal X Prize. How do we reverse your biological age by 20 years with a therapeutic that lasts less than a year? At the end of the day, there is no greater impact for ourselves and our family. In fact, no greater impact for the planet than being able to add vital years to your life. When I say making 100 years old and you 60, it's not about living in a wheelchair with Alzheimer's. It's about having the vitality, so you look good, you feel good, you think clearly. The question ultimately for yourself is this something you're prepared to work on? Because today, what's the #1 thing you can do? It's still the basics. Sleep, 8 hours. It's diet. Sugar is a poison. It was never evolved for us to be eating as much sugar as we do. It's a neuroinflammatory or cardiac inflammatory. It is not something we should be putting into our bodies. So it's sleep, it's diet, it's exercise, and what we heard in this past session, it's mindset. You can will yourself to death and you can will yourself to life. Are you suffering the dystopian futures that you see in the news every day, or are you seeing the incredible world we're living in? Because as innovators, as leaders, as investors, our mission is to find problems and solve problems. We're living in a world in which the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities. Want to become a billionaire, help 1 billion people. This is the extraordinary world we have. Food, diet, exercise, sleep, and mindset. I wish you all a beautiful, decades of health together. Thank you.